Sure. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you state your name, please, sir?
Sergeant Dana Suggs,
And how are you employed?
Raleigh Police Department,
And how long have you been with the Raleigh Police Department?
25 years.
And can you describe your duties and responsibilities with the Raleigh Police Department currently?
Currently uniformed line supervisor
And how long have you been holding that position?
for the past 3.5 years.
And is there a particular district or part of the city that you are responsible for as a field line supervisor?
Yes, ma'am. That's the Northwest District located out the Glenwood Avenue corridor between the Beltline and Durham County.
And when you say the Glenwood Avenue corridor, what do you mean when you use the term corridor?
That direction of the city, where Glenwood Avenue crosses the Beltline from that location all the way out to the Durham city limits.
So it would include Glenwood Avenue and kind of the area just immediately on either side of Glenwood?
Yes, ma'am.
With regard to your duties and responsibilities as a field line supervisor for, and that's known as the Northwest District, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe what responsibilities you have as the field line supervisor?
At the beginning of the shift, we hold roll calls for the line units to pass on information to them. And at that point, after roll call, they go out and cover their beats for that shift.
And what kind of thing happens at roll call?
Basically, there's a roll call at 6 o'clock and at 7 o'clock, both morning and afternoon. And passed on information from the prior shift.
And the watch commander, that would be someone other than yourself?
Correct.
But are you present and participating in the roll call itself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall whether or not you were working on July the 19th of 2011 being a Tuesday evening?
Yes, ma'am. We were on night shift.
And does that vary, either you work day shift or night shift?
A 28-day cycle of day shift, and then we go to a 28-day cycle of night shifts.
And night shift means that you come on at what time?
My hours are 5:45 to 5:45, and the uniform units, they either come in at 6P or 7P, or either 7A or 6A.
And so basically there are kind of two waves that come on. They either come on at 6 o'clock or they come on at 7 o'clock for the night shift.
That is correct.
And then you have roll calls at both of those times, 6 and 7, so that you can pass on whatever information to each of those
That is correct, yes.
officers. Do you recall on July the 19th of 2011 whether or not there was information about a missing person?
Yes, ma'am.
And what information, and was that information that was passed on to the officers that were coming on duty?
It was passed on both by the watch commander as well as through email.
And do you recall exactly what information was available and was passed on regarding that missing person?
Yes, ma'am. It was a missing person from Kinston, North Carolina. They had requested assistance from the Raleigh Police Department, believing that her last known location was somewhere in Raleigh.
And in terms of information that you had to give to the officers, did that include a name of the missing person, a description of that person?
At that point, all we had been given was, through the email, was a BOLO, which be on the lookout for, was a photograph, vehicle description, and where she was missing from.
Did you later find out that person was Laura Ackerson, the photo that you had?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that you had a vehicle description. What vehicle description did you have?
2006 white Ford Focus.
And what kind of vehicle is that?
It's a small Ford four-door car.
Did you also have a license tag that was given as part of that information?
We did, but I do not recall the actual license tag number.
Okay, but that information, being the picture of Miss Ackerson as well as the, description of the car and the license tag, that was all given out to the officers that were coming on duty?
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of, why that information was provided to your officers that were in the Northwest District, was there any particular, was it shared throughout the city of Raleigh?
It was, but it was directed mainly toward our district because information had been received through investigative means by researching the cell phone that the last cell tower that phone operated from was in the Northwest District.
And specifically, did you have information that last call from the victim's phone was hitting off a cell tower that was located right there at Crabtree Valley Mall?
Yes, close to the Beltline, 440 Beltline near Glenwood Avenue at Crabtree.
As the night went on, did you get any additional information?
We did.
Okay. And what additional information did you get?
Well, initially at roll call, as part of the roll call, we reiterated this information with the guys and passed it on and asked them to make sure they checked all of the parking lot, shopping centers, and start going through the apartment complexes in our district because of that information that came from the cell phone. Later on that night, received a phone call from Sergeant Penny from the RIC Center, the Raleigh Intelligence Center, that he provided me with. Basically, it was a last known address, or an old address of when she used to live in Raleigh.
So initially, the information was given to officers and the encouragement to check apartment complexes and shopping centers for Laura or a car. Is that right?
Looking for that vehicle, yes.
And you indicated that Sergeant Penny with the Raleigh Intelligence Center, the RIC Center, had provided you some additional information. What is the RIC Center?
It's the Raleigh Intelligence Center. It basically offers assistance to line units as well as detectives with gathering information. They do research. They research the phones, research the people's backgrounds. If you need assistance formulating a photo lineup, they can assist you with that. They're utilized a lot throughout the shift.
So the information that you got from Sergeant Penny and the RIC Intelligence Center, you said was a former address for the victim, Laura Ackerson?
Yes.
And do you recall what that address was?
I don't recall the exact address, but I do know it was in the Camden Crest Apartments located off of Grove Barton Road.
And was that an apartment complex that is located within the Northwest District?
It is.
And once you got that information that Laura Ackerson had previously resided at the Camden Crest apartment complex, what did you do with that information?
I contacted one of the officers that was patrolling in that area and passed that information on to him.
Okay, and what officer was that?
Officer Walters.
And did you give Officer Walters any instructions or further
Yes.
requests?
I asked him to check that particular apartment complex and all the complexes immediately around there to look for that vehicle.
And after making that request of Officer Walters, did you hear back from him?
I did, probably within 30, 45 minutes from contacting him. Sometime between 10:45 and 11 that night, he called me back indicating that he had located that vehicle in the Camden Crest Apartments.
And what did you do once you got that information from Officer Walters?
I immediately responded to his location.
And this again would still be Tuesday, July the 18th, I think you said before 11 o'clock or around 11 o'clock that night?
It was that Tuesday night, yes.
And did you in fact go over to the Camden Crest apartment?
I did.
And what did you observe once you got there?
When I got there, Officer Walters was standing by with that vehicle. It was parked in a parking space like other vehicles. It was pulled in forward, And he had basically secured the area to make sure no one went around the vehicle or approached it or anything.
And what did you do once you got there?
Contacted Sergeant Privatelli with the Major Crimes Unit.
And what was the purpose in contacting Sergeant Privatelli?
They were the ones who basically sent out the initial information on the Bolo looking for her and the vehicle.
And did Sergeant Privatelli with the Major Crimes Unit, did he or members of his team actually respond to where you were?
They did. A short time later, we just stood by until they got there. Sergeant Privatelli, Detective Gill, and there were several other detectives that responded out there to that location.
And while you waited for those officers to get there, did you or Officer Walters undertake to try to go into that vehicle or conduct any search of the vehicle?
No, ma'am. We just visually looked through the windows. We didn't touch the vehicle, didn't try to open it or anything. We just stood by until the major crime units arrived.
And did you see anything out of the ordinary with regard to the vehicle and just looking around it or in it?
No, ma'am.
During the time that you were there, did the crime scene people that actually processed the vehicle, did they show up there?
Yes, ma'am. A search warrant was drawn up by one of the detectives, and we stood by while they processed the vehicle.
Are you familiar, Sergeant Suggs, with the Woodfield Glen apartment complex?
Yes, ma'am.
And where is it located in relation to the Camden Crest apartment complex where the victim's white Ford Focus was located?
It's the complex located immediately east of that location.
And in order to travel between where the victim's car was found in Camden Crest apartment complex to the Woodfield Glen apartment complex, is that walking distance?
It is.
And can you give some idea of the distance?
I would estimate between 400 and 500 yards.
And at that time, did you have any information about any significance to the Woodfield Glen apartment complex?
Not at that time, no.
And at that time, you did not know that Woodfield Glen apartment complex is where Grant and Amanda Haynes resided?
No, ma'am, not at the time we located the vehicle, no.
You later knew that to be true?
Later, yes.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Sergeant Suggs, I'm handing you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 32. Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is State's Exhibit number 32?
It's a map overview of the area that has the apartment complex, Camden Crest apartment complex, as well as the other complex located off of Doy Cove Road.
And does that exhibit fairly and accurately depict, that area that's shown in the map, the area off Glenwood Avenue and where these apartment complexes are located?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you be able to use State's Exhibit number 32 in order to point out the location where the victim's car was located on the 19th of July 2011?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, I would move to introduce into evidence State's Exhibit number 32.
That be received.
Ask permission to publish it on the screen.
You may.
Sergeant Suggs, do you see the laser pointer up there on the?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you kind of orient us here with regard to what's we're being shown on this map?
Yes, ma'am. This is Glenwood Avenue that basically runs from downtown all the way out to the city limits towards Durham.
Okay.
Intersection of Lynn Road here.
So Durham is in what direction?
Durham would be out west this direction here.
Okay. And downtown would be the other direction?
Yes, ma'am, it will be down.
And so Crabtree Mall and that area would be further towards downtown?
Yes, ma'am. If you were going inbound on Glenwood Avenue in this direction here, you would be approaching the 440 Beltline as well as Crabtree Mall.
Do you know about how far it is from the intersection of Lynn Road and Glenwood to Crabtree?
To Crabtree, I would couple 3 miles maybe.
Using State's Exhibit number 32, can you point out the Camden Crest apartment complex?
This complex here in the entrance is off of Grove Barton. There's 2 entrances off of Grove Barton Road, which are right here, and this incorporates this complex here.
And Grove Barton Road runs off of Lynn Road, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. It goes runs off of intersects with Lynn Road here, and it travels over to Pinecrest Road, this is Pinecrest, and it intersects up in this area.
And the Woodfield Glen apartment complex, are you able to point that out on the map?
This is Camden Crest. Woodfield Glen would be this area right here. Bella Park Trail. This is Doy Cope Road here.
And in terms of the location of the victim's car, when you and Officer Walters discovered it on July the 19th, can you point that out?
It would be in this area up here. There's a couple of parking spaces next to a little grass median, and then on the other side is a row of enclosed garages.
So the actual apartment buildings, where were they? What was the closest apartment building?
The closest apartment building to the vehicle would be this building here. And then there's another apartment building which is across the parking lot there, and then again over here. And this is just a wooded area back here that separates this complex from these townhomes over here.
Gentleman, first witness.
You may.
Sergeant Suggs, I'm going to hand you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 33, 34, and 35. I'll just ask you to take a moment to look at those. Do you recognize State's Exhibits 33, 34, and 35?
Yes, ma'am. That is the photographs of the vehicle that Officer Walters located.
And the State's Exhibits 33, 34, and 35 depict the victim's Ford Focus as it was discovered there at the apartment place in Camden Crest apartment complex.
Yes, ma'am.
And would those photographs assist you in illustrating your testimony with regard to what you observed with regard to the victim's car?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the state would move to introduce into evidence State's Exhibit 33, 34, and 35.
Let them be received.
And ask permission to
You may.
publish those briefly. Sergeant Suggs, State's Exhibit 33 is up on the screen, and can you describe what's depicted here?
Yes, ma'am. It is a photograph of a 2006 Ford Focus.
And the license tag that is exhibited there, did that match the information that you had gotten earlier on the BOLO?
Yes, ma'am.
And enabled you to identify this car as of interest?
That is correct.
With regard to this car and how it's located in that parking spot. You had indicated on the earlier map that there was a kind of a median grassy area. Can you see that in this photo?
You can see a portion of it is this area right here. Like the main street would be over here, and this is like a grassy area. And then there's another like circle street that comes down here. And to the left would be the garages, and to the right would be the main apartment building.
And was there another car parked next to this active vehicle at the time it was discovered?
Yes, ma'am. There was a vehicle located in this space directly next to hers. And at that time of night, the whole parking lot was basically full, and very little. There was, I don't think we saw but one or two people, pedestrians, the entire time we were out there because of the time of night it was.
And by this time, it's getting on towards midnight.
By the time these pictures were taken, we were probably 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because we had to wait for the search warrant.
State's Exhibit 34. What is shown in this photograph?
The same vehicle, just a different angle. The curb, grassy, bushy, median area here, pulled into the parking space. You can see the other vehicle that was parked next to it. That case laying on that vehicle, that belonged to CCBI. And then the apartment, I'm sorry, the garages are over here.
Okay, so basically there were just two parking spaces in this area before the garages would begin.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And so the CCBI, those are the people that came and processed the vehicle. That's the suitcase that's on top of this other vehicle.
Yes, their work kit.
And State's Exhibit number 35, is this just a view from the front of the car, kind of looking back towards the rear of the car?
That is correct.
And appears to be a vehicle behind it. Is that also a CCBI vehicle?
Yes, ma'am, that is.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right, it's 11:30. We haven't had the morning break. I think it'd be a good time to stop for the break. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously you haven't heard it all. Keep an open mind. Don't form or express any opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant or any matter in controversy. Be careful about your conduct. Follow my previous instructions. Why don't we take about, 15 minutes. If you want to go get some water or coffee or something like that, bring it back. You're free to do that. I'll leave your notes in the chair, and I'll see y'all reassemble in the jury room in about 15 minutes. Thank you.